Good evening and welcome to Chicago Tonight on this Thursday, December 20th.
It's not like you're preparing your tax returns for release. You release your tax returns. You've got them, you filed them, you submitted them, just release them.
A majority of the candidates running for mayor have not released their tax returns. A conversation with Kim Foxx, who just marked her second year as Cook County State's Attorney.
They finished, but they know that we're not finished, that we want to continue.
The Chicago Bears are headed to the playoffs. Big Cat Williams is back to break down the season.
I don't want this building knocked down. I'd love to see, 10 little enterprises.
A beloved Rogers Park institution prepares to close its doors at the end of the year.
It's not just the greatest space mission that NASA ever ran. I think it's one of the great explorations in humanity's history.
The historic voyage that launched 50 years ago tomorrow. We revisit a reunion in Chicago of the three astronauts who went where no humans had ever been.
There is something I gotta say, a message that I hope will reach.
And singer Dee Alexander reaches out with songs of the season in advance of a big show with the Chicago Jazz Orchestra. All that and more next on Chicago Tonight. Thanks for joining us. I'm Phil Ponce. Events begin to honor and remember two fallen Chicago police officers. Brandis Friedman has that story and more of what's making news in Chicago tonight. Brandis.
And Phil, a police suspect is back in court today as hundreds of mourners, including police, elected officials, and community members, gathered to begin farewell services for two police officers killed in the line of duty this week. Officer Conrad Gary is being remembered at a wake in Oak Lawn this evening, with his funeral scheduled for tomorrow morning at St. Rita's. Visitation for Officer Eduardo Marmolejo will be at the same funeral home in Oak Lawn tomorrow evening, with funeral services at the same church Saturday morning. Meanwhile, 24-year-old Edward Brown is being held on $200,000 bond. In court today, the state's attorney's office says Brown was coming home from work when he got off a train and found a fanny pack in an alley. They say the pack contained a gun and ammunition, which he fired twice while standing on the tracks, once into the air and once at a school not in session. Police say they later found the gun's owner, who told them he dropped the fanny pack while taking out the garbage. Brown's defense attorney says curiosity got the best of him and that he thought he was doing something safe by firing the weapon on the tracks. He faces 2 felony weapons charges. A few familiar faces will be seen serving in Governor-elect J.B. Pritzker's administration. Pritzker named former State Controller Dan Hines as Deputy Governor. Hines has been serving as a senior advisor to the Transition Committee. State Representative Christian Mitchell of Chicago will also serve as Deputy Governor. He also is currently serving as the interim director of the Democratic Party of Illinois. And attorney Jesse Ruiz has also been named a deputy governor. Ruiz is a former chair of the Illinois State Board of Education and recently ran unsuccessfully for Illinois Attorney General. And neighbors in Bronzeville now have an easy new way of getting to the lake. City officials today cut the ribbon on the new 41st Street pedestrian bridge over South Lakeshore Drive and railroad tracks. The S-shaped bridge is more than 1,400 feet long and costs $33 million. It'll directly connect the neighborhood with the Oakwood 41st Street beach.
And I do hope that you as residents and friends will utilize this asset that has been added to our community. Summertime is coming. We used to have to walk 3 blocks in one direction and 3 blocks in another direction. Today we get to walk a mile across the bridge.
And if you're heading to Navy Pier, that's getting easier too. The first section of the Navy Pier flyover opened today, meaning pedestrians and bikers on the Lakefront Trail no longer have to cross 2 busy roadways at Grand and Illinois. This section starts near the Ohio Street Beach, crosses over Grand and Illinois, and connects to a temporary ramp at Lower Lakeshore Drive, south of Illinois Street. As for the weather tonight, likely rain and fog first, then cloudy with a low around 32. For your Friday, cloudy with a high of 33. And don't forget, you can get Chicago Tonight streamed on Facebook, YouTube, and our website, WTTW.com/news. You can also watch via podcast and the PBS video app. Now, Phil, back to you.
Thanks, Brandis. With 21 candidates currently running to be Chicago's next mayor, the voting public and the media have a lot of vetting to do. One of the classic ways this is done is through a politician's tax returns. But so far, most of the candidates for mayor have not released this information. Chicago Tonight's Amanda Vinicky has been requesting it. And Amanda, why have so many candidates not shared this basic information?
Well, Phil, as the nation learned with President Donald Trump, they don't have to. There's no law requiring it. Candidates do have to submit financial interest statements, but those are relatively vague. A whole lot more detail can be gleaned from income tax returns. Candidate for mayor Paul Vallis says tax returns are like a financial MRI. Vallis has made his returns public, and he says every other candidate should do the same. He says failure to do so is a red flag.
It's a political science 101. Release your financials. Let us see how you made your money. Let us see who you contributed to. Let us see who you donated to, or what charities you funded or you helped subsidize. At the end of the day, releasing the tax returns is the most simplest, easiest form of transparency.
So Paul Vallis has released his tax returns. Who else has?
Basically, anyone who has or is holding a public office. The Tribune got full returns for the past several years from Dorothy Brown, Lori Lightfoot, Tony Preckwinkle, Susana Mendoza, and Vallis, as well as partial returns from Gary Chico. Now, Chicago Tonight has also reached out to the rest of the field, and so far, no luck. Some candidates have committed to releasing their returns, like Bill Daley and Jamal Green. They say it's just a matter of timing. Others, though, have made no commitment to sharing their returns. That includes Amara Enya, Jerry Joyce, Gary McCarthy, Neil Salas Griffin, and Willie Wilson. Earlier this week, I spoke with Wilson's spokesman, who said he would share his returns once the field narrowed. But today, Wilson appeared to back off, saying that President Trump should release his first. Wilson says he isn't trying to make this an issue of race, but he says he's from the Jim Crow days.
There's not one African-American organization that any white person in America would give their tax to. Not one.
Wilson is a wealthy businessman. He's independently funding his campaign. Now, he frequently gives out cash to churchgoers to help bail inmates out of jail. Wilson says if they were made public, his returns would show he does more for charity, that is, than the rest of the field. And if there was anything suspicious with his taxes, he'd, quote, be hung.
I guarantee you, if something was wrong with my taxes, Craig, internal revenue had been hanging up on State Street, upside down.
So what reason have other candidates given for not releasing their tax returns?
Well, both Green and Salas Griffin say that they have been too busy fighting petition challenges. Green says he will release his returns. Salas Griffin's campaign says he was paid solely by nonprofits, and so information like his salary can be found on those 990 forms. Enya's spokeswoman says she'll be addressing the issue soon, likely next Saturday. But a statement does give us some insight. Enya's spokeswoman says it's incorrect to view tax returns as a sign of a candidate's ability to manage money. She says that favors the wealthy while leaving other candidates in a compromising position, considering that most Americans have debt. Vallis pushed back on that reasoning.
Well, I released mine, and I don't have a ton of money. Yeah, I mean, come on now. Come on. Are we trying to make a progressive argument that releasing your tax returns is somehow not progressive? Sorry. Yeah, well, sorry. It doesn't cut it. This is the big leagues, and really, there's all sorts of excuses. That excuse stretches the imagination.
Now, we will be continuing to ask each of the candidates for this and, of course, plenty of other information. Joyce and McCarthy say they are undecided as to whether they're going to make their tax returns public. So really, this could come down to a matter of public pressure.
Amanda, thank you. And now to Eddie Ruza, the Cook County State's Attorney. Eddie.
Phil, Kim Foxx has been Cook County State's Attorney for 2 years as the first African-American woman to hold that post. She leads the second largest prosecutor's office in the country with more than 700 prosecutors. The platform that propelled her to victory in 2016 was that of a reformer, wanting to change the focus from being tough on crime to being smart on crime. And joining us tonight to look back on her first 2 years and ahead is Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me, Eddie. Thank you.
So what would you say are the key changes or reforms that you have brought to the office during your first 2 years?
I think the biggest change is around transparency. Our office is the first prosecutor's office in the country to release our case level data on an open data portal. So everything that we've done in the State's Attorney's Office during my tenure and for the 7 years prior to my tenure is available to the public to see. Our charging decisions, who we charge, how we charge, sentencings, any disparities with that. So the level of transparency is unprecedented, not just in this office, but around the country. So I think that's the biggest change. I don't think people can trust what you're doing unless you show them what you're doing, and that's been really important to us. Part of that transparency has meant us looking at our priorities and where we were putting our resources. What we found looking at the data when I took office 2 years ago, despite having the highest homicide rate in 20 years in 2016, despite the number of guns we were taking off the streets, our resources weren't going to gun crimes or violent crime. We were dealing with a lot of retail theft and other smaller crimes. And so that allowed us to reprioritize and be more strategic about where we were putting our resources to fight violent crime.
But you were following state law, or your predecessor was, in fighting that kind of crime.
Yes.
So how have you been able to get around that?
So we've used our discretion to say we'll look at particularly retail theft. In Illinois, we sit as an island. The felony threshold for retail theft in Illinois is $300. In Iowa, it's $750. In Wisconsin, it's $2,000. In Minnesota, it's $1,000. We are similar to Florida in our felony threshold. And so we said that we will continue to prosecute retail theft largely as misdemeanors unless there are circumstances in which we believe that it should be treated as a felony. When we did that, retail theft went to the #2 prosecuted crime in 2017, where guns, the unlawful possession of firearms, rose to #1, and more of our resources went to fighting illegal guns on our streets.
Your predecessor was accused of overcharging and criminalizing poverty, among other things. Has it been an uphill battle to change the culture of the State's Attorney's Office in that regard?
I don't know if the culture of the State's Attorney's was the issue as the laws that we have on the books. Another thing that we did was we have a lot of people who we were charging with misdemeanors for driving on suspended licenses, not because they were dangerous, but because they could not afford to pay their tickets. And there's been a lot of information in the last several years about the fact that there was a class of poor people who were going further and further into debt trying to pay off these tickets, and they were getting their licenses suspended, and they risked going to jail. So what we did was we said, is this a good use of our resources? What we started to do was say our office should not be in the business of collecting debts. Local resources, cities and other municipalities can do that. But our office, our attorneys actually said we would rather be using our time and energy fighting violent crime rather than going after people who are too poor to pay tickets.
Have you had any problems in retaining career prosecutors, given the direction that you're taking this office in trying to balance law and order with reforms?
Actually, we've been really fortunate. My #2 in charge, Joe McGatz, is a 28-year veteran of the office, who I mark his 5th state's attorney that he's had the opportunity to work for. We found that we have a lot of our career prosecutors who have seen various prosecution tactics not work over the course of their careers, who are very excited about the opportunity to try something new. So we've been very fortunate to retain top talent as well as attracting really thoughtful, innovative talent from law schools right now.
In the past, the marker of success for your office, correct me if I'm wrong, among your prosecutors has been a high conviction rate.
Yeah.
Has that changed? And if so, how do you measure success at the office now?
We still look at conviction rates. We are, when we prosecute someone, we certainly want to make sure that we're prosecuting the right people for the right offenses. And so there is a measure to see if we're prosecuting people and not getting convictions, then we're doing something wrong. So we still look at conviction rates. We measure that over time, but that's not the whole of what we do. In addition to convictions, there's also the opportunity for us to right old wrongs, the work that we're doing in our conviction integrity unit, where in fact we're going back and looking at old cases in which there was was a conviction that may have been wrongfully obtained.
And in fact, you have vacated dozens of convictions. What has been the process for that?
Certainly. We revamped the unit. We brought in Mark Rodert, who had experience as both a prosecutor and a defense attorney at the federal level, the state level. And he brought a team together that has been very thoughtful about how they approach these cases. One of the first things they did was they made the process transparent, put together an application, sent it to the prisons, and have worked really methodically in going through these cases. So far, there have been 66 convictions that have been vacated at this time.
You've also started a unit targeting gun crimes. And as you said, you came into this office in a year where the shootings in Chicago were at an all-time high, the highest in decades. And yet, the clearance rate among police, meaning the number of suspects or criminals that they find in these shootings, is abysmally low. So what have you been able to do or work with the police department in order to find these suspects and criminals?
So one of the first things that we did was we said that we needed a unit dedicated to gathering intelligence on these gun crimes. So we took attorneys out of our courtrooms and put them into the two most violent districts from 2016, the 7th District in Inglewood and the 11th District in North Lawndale. Having attorneys in the police districts, working with police on the ground, being able to gather intelligence about who was driving the violence and sharing that information with our office to build stronger cases. We also meet monthly with CPD staff and go over our statistics over prosecution rates for gun crimes. We also built out a manual for CPD for felony review to help make it more clear of what's necessary for us to approve felony charges.
Has Superintendent Eddie Johnson been receptive to your reforms and your changes?
I've been very pleased with the working relationship that Superintendent Johnson and I have had. Our use of data showing him, police make the arrest and they come to the courthouse, and then we do the work in the courthouse, but never were we sitting and talking about how successful we were being or where were opportunities for improvement. And Superintendent Johnson has been a good partner with me in trying to make those changes.
I want to ask you about a couple of specific cases, some that might not even be a case yet with your office. And the first one is with the 13th Ward incumbent Alderman Marty Quinn, and this case about alleged fraud coming from his office targeted at his 19-year-old challenger. What can you tell me about that? Are you looking into this case?
What I can tell you is that we've been in touch with the Board of Elections, and we will see where the case proceeds from there.
There are reports that the FBI is investigating. Can you tell us anything about your either working with the FBI or if they are indeed looking into this matter?
I can't speak to that.
In terms of just malfeasance and shenanigans in Cook County politics, there's always been accusations, there's always been hints that things are not done entirely legal in some campaigns. Is that something that the Cook County State's Attorney's Office has really never been charging any of these cases? Is that something that you think should be higher up on your radar?
So the State's Attorney's Office does involve ourselves in county-based elections. And in fact, back in 2016, there were charges that arose out of that election related to absentee ballots that were being wrongfully submitted in the south suburbs. And so we partner, in that case, we partnered with the Postal Service to help us investigate those cases. We have resources to monitor elections, but we also have partners in the U.S. Attorney's Office as well who can help us with the corruption issues.
Do you think that it will be something that you will make a precedent or that you will take more seriously in the years to come?
Yeah, I think we take very seriously election fraud and, as you put it, shenanigans around elections. I think people can't trust the government that we have if they don't believe that the process is fair. So we will continue to monitor elections, review cases of irregularities, and file charges when and if appropriate.
The other case I want to ask you about is there's some breaking news on it this afternoon, and that involves this cab driver that was kicked and killed by an Uber driver. This is Anis Tungakar, who was the cab driver. There's word this afternoon that the Uber driver has fled the country. That case was referred to your office. You referred it back to police, saying it needed more investigation. What can you tell me about that?
I can tell you that there is a continuing investigation case. As I noted before, police make arrests. It's our job to look at the facts, the evidence, and the law to determine if charges are appropriate. When we believe that we need to get more information, so we have a video that tells part of the story. Are there witnesses? Are there others who can add context to what happened before or after what we saw? And that's the process that we're in now. And so I've just learned, as you have, regarding his disappearance at this time, and we will be working with Chicago Police Department to see where we go
The medical
next.
examiner's office did declare this a homicide. Wasn't that enough to bring this individual in and maybe keep that person in custody?
No, so we have laws that we have to adhere to. If we're going to hold someone in custody, there's a certain amount of time that they can be held in custody without charges. And to be clear, a homicide is a death that is caused by another. What we try to determine is whether that homicide is justifiable. Was there self-defense? Was this premeditated? Was this in the heat of the moment? There are a number of legal factors that we have to consider, not just that there was a death involved.
And Kim Foxx, very quickly, where do you see your office going in the next 2 years of your term?
I think we're looking at the epidemic of drug addiction. There's been a lot of conversation about opioids and addiction in our communities and the lack of resources to deal with those issues in communities, and the fact that jails and the criminal justice system have become the safety valve for that. We don't believe that that's the appropriate mechanism to deal with these issues. So we're looking at how do we partner with community-based organizations to deal with addiction.
Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx, thank you very much for being here tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
And to you as well. And there's more Chicago Tonight ahead, so please stay with us.
Still to come on Chicago Tonight, a beloved Rogers Park restaurant is shutting down, possibly for good, at the end of the year. Dee Alexander sings holiday songs and talks about playing with a big band jazz orchestra. And a 50th anniversary reunion in Chicago of the Apollo 8 astronauts as a new book remembers their historic voyage. But first, a pair of shuts and the story of a football team reborn. Paris.
Phil, the Bears are headed to the playoffs for the first time since 2010. After winning their 10th game in the NFC North Division on Sunday, the Bears now have an outside shot at securing a first-round playoff bye. So how did the Bears go from a 5-win team last year to a division championship? And can they keep this momentum moving into the playoffs? Here to break it all down is our old friend James Big Cat Williams. Big Cat was an offensive tackle for the Bears from 1991 to 2002. Big Cat, great to have you back.
Thank you.
All right, so for the folks that missed the first 15 weeks of the season, give us the bullet points. How did the Bears go from a 5-11 cellar dweller to winning the NFC North Championship a year later?
Well, I think when you start talking about, the Bears and their progression, you have to talk about management. You have to talk about the players that Pace was able to bring in. You have to talk about the head coach that Pace brought in Nagy. And you have to talk about him being able to secure a defensive coordinator in Fangio that, they didn't let go. So I think, you add all those things up and, this is the product that we have on the field now. You have a team that's just, exploding right now.
And then one of those moves that the general manager, Ryan Pace, made was to trade a first-round and second-round pick for the next 2 years to get Khalil Mack. How big of an impact has Khalil Mack had, not only on the defense, but the entire team's success?
Well, I think you're talking about now a guy that has, and it's just uplifted the entire team and helped everyone to play better.
And so this defense was pretty good last year. They were going to be good without Khalil Mack. Has he made the defense even that much better?
Yeah, well, you're talking about, an NFL now that you have to have double-team Hicks every play. Now he's made it easier for the cornerbacks to cover because they don't have to cover as long because now these guys are able to put a lot more pressure.
And so now you have a team with 26 interceptions, the leader in the NFL. How elite has this defense been compared to great defenses in NFL history?
I think it's getting there. I think only time will tell how good they can truly be, because you've got to remember, you're talking about like Roquan Smith, you're talking about Mack, you're talking about guys that this is their first year
still learning to
in the
play together.
system, right? So, you know, if you give these guys 2 or 3 years to work together under Fangio, if you can keep them in the same system, now you're talking about a defense that could be off the charts.
And that's assuming Fangio doesn't leave to be a head coach somewhere next
We
year.
got our fingers crossed. We got our fingers crossed.
He'd be a popular candidate. All right, so a lot of what happened in the offseason, you talked about bringing in new players and management, centered around the development of Mitch Trubisky, second-year quarterback. How would you assess his progress this year?
I think he's moving along faster than I or a lot of, well, he was, you know, not seeing the guys coming off the edges. And as you watch him now, he's starting to pick that stuff up. His ability to get outside the pocket, which is really big right now. Now he's able to get outside the pocket here in the system. This is his first year with Nagy. So I think as time goes on, it'll get better. Like we saw him after, 2 weeks, Trubisky to be good. I don't think they need Trubisky to be great, but they do need him to be good. They need him to hold on to the ball security, not throw interceptions, and they stand a chance. With that defense and with the running game they have shown at spurts, that carries well into the playoffs.
All right, so another player that's really emerged is Tariq Cohen. 5'6". He really seems to play with a chip on his shoulder. Why do you think defenses have such a hard time figuring out how to contain him?
Well, Tariq Cohen is a matchup nightmare. You're talking about a guy that can run, that can run routes like a wide receiver, that is very shifty, and
he can throw the ball.
And he can throw the ball also, yes. But he's a nightmare matchup. Do you put a corner on him? Do you put a nickel on him? And then that takes away from other areas. If you put a linebacker on him, 99% of the time, he's beating a linebacker.
Right.
He runs good wheel routes. He's the back of the future. He's that back that can not only run the ball inside and out.
Like Ditka for a bit, and then Dave Wanstead wouldn't like is the touchdown celebrations. It seems like they're having a lot of fun. How big a deal is chemistry in a winning football team? Guys that really have fun and like to play together.
When I look at these guys are having a blast. Not only with the touchdown celebrations and the interception celebrations, but you watch, anytime you have an opportunity to put 4 defensive linemen on the field for an offensive play, that gets everybody on the sideline standing up to watch what's going on.
You're talking about that goal line play that Nagy drew up with
Santa
Slay, they called it. Went to Akeem Hicks. The first time, and then the first time went to Akeem, and then the second time they faked to Akeem Hicks and threw it to the lineman.
Sutton, yeah. So they are doing things a little out of the ordinary, but they are having a blast on it. Everything from the plays they run to the disco ball in the locker room afterwards and the dancing. He's brought fun back to football. It's not only a job, now it's a fun job.
What do you think about Matt Nagy? You talk about Matt Nagy, the new coach, bringing that fun aspect to it. What else has he brought as a head coach?
Oh, he's brought leadership. He's brought a system that the players believe in. And I think that's 90% of the battle, is getting young and old players to believe in your system, in the things that you want to do, in the things that you want done out on the field. And I think these guys have bought into this. So, I think the sky's the limit as long as he can keep these guys reined in, because they're having a blast right now. They're putting points up, they're stopping people on defense, and they're having a blast doing it.
So it looks like the Bears are going to get the 3rd seed, which means they won't get a bye in the first round. Right. How far do you think they could go?
Defense travels. Defense travels. If they can get the run game at a consistent level, I'd say they can go a long way. If you can go into a stadium like the Saints Stadium and play a halfway decent game offensively with the way that defense plays, you stand a good chance. Stand an even better chance if you go out to play the Rams. So, their chances are good I think health is going to be the big key. If you can keep people healthy through these next 2 weeks of the regular season and into your first playoff game, things bode well for the Bears.
That's right. We got to get that safety Eddie Jackson back from the sprained ankle. All right, Big Cat, great to see you again. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
And now, Phil, we go back to you.
Thanks, Bears. On December 31st, after 42 years, an iconic Rogers Park restaurant and community hub will close. The Heartland Cafe on the corner of Glenwood and Lunt, which has been striving to serve good, wholesome food for the mind and body with a healthy side order of progressive politics since 1976, will soon be no more. The vegetarian leading restaurant was the creation of young progressive activists.
I was teaching at Columbia College. I was developing this theory of progressive institutions that serve the community. We came up here after we learned of the closing of Lackey's Steakhouse. A guy told us this place was available. We came up and it was a rainy day and the clouds cleared and the sun came out and there was a rainbow. And we said, this is a special place. We're going forward.
Michael James and Katie Hogan owned the Heartland for 36 years. They sold it to current owner Tom Rosenfeld in 2012. James and Hogan didn't have much restaurant experience when they started out.
I worked at a country club in my hometown and got fired right away for eating a leftover steak off of someone's plate.
God, does that ever not surprise me? I worked at 2 food establishments, Little King Sandwich Shop right over on Sheridan Road, and I did host at Pizzeria Uno downtown for a little while.
With $4,000 borrowed from family and friends and an army of volunteers, they set to work transforming an old neighborhood steakhouse into a new kind of restaurant.
We were very influenced by Frances Lapé Moore in her book Diet for a Small Planet, which basically says you can't meet the world's protein needs on a meat-based diet. We had $200 left. We went down to South Water Market, mostly to the Greater Illinois People's Co-op, bought brown rice and beans, some vegetables, and we opened on August 11th to a crowd of 43 people.
The Heartland soon grew to become a cornerstone of the community.
We made it up as we went along, basically, and we trusted and loved our people.
We were definitely politically into Rainbow Coalition kind of politics, black, white, Latino, American Indian, Asian, and that certainly was became a formidable part of this place.
We were only 7 years open when Harold Washington ran for mayor, and we immediately said, use us. It was a very special night. He did walk in. People were chanting, Harold, Harold. It was completely racially mixed.
He called it the Unity Cafe.
He goes, they should call this the Unity Cafe.
A young Democrat running for the United States Senate also stopped by in 2004.
He started by interviewing Obama on the radio show, and then Barack just stood there in front of an entirely packed restaurant. Kids were bussed in by the committeemen from various neighborhoods. They were out there packed. And he spoke. He just stood there and spoke without a note for 45 minutes to people like they had brains. And they were silent and listened and went, okay, yeah, let's make this guy the senator.
Politics remains an important part of the Heartland's enduring legacy.
Any night of the week, you could come in and see people huddled over their work that they're doing together to better some issue that is important.
Rebels in a cafe making plans.
Beyond politics, the Heartland Small Stage helped launch a number of young bands while also hosting more established acts.
We started doing music, and we had Smashing Pumpkin, 11th Dream Day. We had
when they were young and unknown.
Pete Best, Jefferson Starship, through a connection that I had, and then much later.
Dropping names here. So the thing about the Heartland that it was like keeping lots of plates spinning, you know. I mean, and that is part of surviving the restaurant business.
Tanja Fernandez worked her way up from dishwasher to front of house manager after coming to Chicago from Colorado.
I'm heartbroken. This is my home. It's my safe place. I don't really know what Chicago is without the Heartland in it.
Rosenfeld says that owning the Heartland for the past 6 years was like becoming the caretaker of a beloved institution.
I knew what I was getting into, but wasn't quite prepared for how much Heartland is in the middle of this community and how much the community feels kind of almost a sense of ownership, a sense of membership with what we do at the Heartland.
But Rosenfeld says operating a restaurant out of the current building has become too difficult.
There's the complete inefficiency of operating in a 100-plus-year-old building that is actually cobbling together of, I think it's 11 storefronts that we have over the years grown into.
Rosenfeld says the building's sale is close to complete. Hogan hopes that somehow the building can be saved.
I don't want this building knocked down. I'd love to see, 10 little enterprises in each of the storefronts, or at least a renewal of that bar, because it's a great music venue.
Rosenfeld, meanwhile, is searching for a new location for the restaurant.
We're trying to find a bit of a needle in the haystack, but there are some out there.
The Heartland Cafe, whether it's just in memory or whether it endures by the current owner, Tom, finding another place to open it, it will endure. And people in the world will be glad that it does.
Rosenfeld says that if he is able to find a new location, he hopes that it will be able to carry forward the spirit of the Heartland Cafe, but expects the new owners of the building will likely raise it to develop residential apartments.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part through the generous support of the Julius Frankel Foundation.
Dee Alexander is one of the most prominent jazz singers in Chicago. Tomorrow night, she tackles perhaps the most prominent jazz singer ever, Ella Fitzgerald. For this holiday celebration, Alexander will sing songs of the season backed by the Chicago Jazz Orchestra, and she will perform in our studio in a few minutes. But first, we want to welcome Dee Alexander. Hello, Dee.
Hello, Phil.
Best of holiday to you.
Same to you, dear.
Ella Fitzgerald is considered by many to be perhaps the greatest jazz vocalist ever. Daunting to perform her work?
Yes, indeed it is. But I generally try to, just my view is interpreting. It's about interpretation. The lyrics, the meaning of the songs, and trying to match Ella's scatting abilities. No, I try to do it my own way.
I understand that Ella Fitzgerald used to get stage fright. Do you get stage fright?
Yes, I do. Believe it or not, I do, especially if it's a new work that I've just, performing for the first time. You just want to make sure that everything is perfect. And in an imperfect world, But yes, I do get afraid sometimes. But once I get out there and hit the first note, then I'm okay.
Well, you are going to be performing in our studio in a few minutes with a piano player accompanying you, but you often perform with the Chicago Jazz Orchestra, an entire orchestra behind you.
Yes.
What is the difference in the dynamic behind having those two kinds of performing scenarios?
Well, when you're performing just like with Dan Trudell, with just a piano player, it's just you, it's just bare bones. But when you have an actual orchestra, you have the horns there, it's wonderful dynamic. It's absolutely wonderful. And that was one of the things that really gave Ella her dynamic ability was because of her emanating horn players, such as Dizzy Gillespie, for example.
By the way, the video we just saw, the orchestra was at the Green Mill, but you're going to be performing at the Studebaker Theater. But talk about the songs, because these are seasonal songs,
Yes.
but standing alone, they're great songs too.
They're timeless songs. They'll be here until infinity. Jingle Bells. I mean, you can't go wrong with Jingle Bells. It's a song that I learned when I was a kid, and I taught it to my sons, and they're teaching it to their children as well. So Jingle Bells and Frosty the Snowman. I mean, these songs are just wonderful. And the songs, not only that, but the transcriptions that Jeff Lindbergh has done with these songs are just wonderful.
You are also one of the hosts of the Jazz Network, which is our sister station WFMT's syndicated program. And you reach fans from Beijing to Eastern Europe. Do you ever get feedback from those places?
I do. I get email all the time. And sometimes I'm in tears because it's just, you always want to do a good job. And you want to make sure that people are enjoying what you're playing. And the beautiful thing is I have full autonomy to play whatever I want. And I try to, I can get a little avant-garde. I try to stay more into the mainstream. But I want to reach the masses. And it's been wonderful. I've been getting great feedback from it as well.
Well, it's been a couple of years since your last release, Songs My Mother Loves.
Yes.
Any chance we're going to hear more from you this coming year in terms of new releases? What can we expect?
Well, I'm working on a couple of projects, as a matter of fact, and I really don't want to talk about them because I don't want to jinx them. But stay tuned.
Well, we absolutely shall, and when those things come out, keep us posted.
Yes.
Dee Alexander, a pleasure speaking with you.
Likewise.
And Dee Alexander performs the Holiday Elebration concert with the Chicago Jazz Orchestra tomorrow night at the Studebaker Theater, as we mentioned. And here she is performing the Irving Berlin standard, White Christmas, with Dan Trudell on piano.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know, where the treetops glisten and children listen to hear sleigh bells in the snow. I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, with every Christmas card I write. May your days be merry and bright, and may all of your Christmases be white. I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know, where the treetops glisten and children listen to hear sleigh bells on the snow. I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, with every Christmas card I write. May your days be merry and bright, and may all of your Christmases, may all of your Christmases, may all of your Christmases be white.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by Allstate. Allstate is investing in Chicago's youth. We believe good starts young. That's why we're helping our youth develop the skills they need to achieve success in life. Allstate is proud to empower the next generation of leaders.
It was a tumultuous year full of tragedy, outrage, and deep divisions, but it ended triumphantly. That's not how 2018 can be summed up just yet, but that was the case 50 years ago. On December 21st, 1968, a rocket took off from the Kennedy Space Center that transformed human history. It was the launch of Apollo 8. The story of that remarkable mission to the moon is the subject of a new book that brought together the Apollo 8 astronauts at the Museum of Science and Industry earlier this year. Eddie Aruza was there, and here is another look at that reunion.
-20 seconds. -20. these are the best guys that ever flew. I mean, we were like a ladybug on the end of a whip antenna, an old-fashioned antenna on your car.
They're going to send us to the moon.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All engines running. Launch commit.
When Apollo 8 launched on the morning of December 21st, 1968, the 3 American astronauts atop the massive Saturn V rocket boldly went where no man had gone before. Over the course of the next 6 days, William Anders, James Lovell, and Frank Borman would achieve numerous towering milestones.
I do think this is not just the greatest space mission that NASA ever ran. I think it's one of the great explorations in humanity's history.
3 hours after liftoff, the astronauts became the first humans to leave low Earth orbit. 2.5 days later, they were the first to enter the moon's gravitational well. Then the first to see the side of the moon Earthlings had never seen with their own eyes. They were also the first humans to view their home planet in its entirety.
As we came around the moon, we suddenly saw the Earth, which was a small blue and white ball, realizing that behind my thumb there was about 5 billion people and everything I ever knew.
Apollo 8 proved that reaching the cosmic body humans had only ever seen from afar could be done. But at the time, the mission was extremely dangerous, with no guarantees that it would end well.
Well, it always embarrassed me when people would say, oh, gee, that was so dangerous on Apollo 8. And yet, we all had colleagues over in Vietnam who were being shot at.
For the 50th anniversary of the monumental Apollo 8 voyage, astronauts Anders, Lovell, and Borman reunited at the Museum of Science and Industry in April to celebrate a new book titled Rocket Men that recounts their astounding journey. It's by former Chicago Sun-Times reporter Robert Kurson, who says the idea to write it was sparked by his discovery that the Apollo 8 capsule, along with Frank Borman's spacesuit, are housed at the Museum of Science and Industry.
I was mystified. I didn't know very much about Apollo 8, if anything, and I considered myself a fan of space and astronauts and space explorations.
Kurson's book is based on new interviews with the 3 Apollo 8 astronauts, and among other things, provides new insights into the challenges and pressures their wives endured.
All they did was pitch in and help and maintain a family, raise their kids, and do everything else. And they did it with pride because they were as much a part of this deal as we were, really.
The book also goes in-depth into the Cold War standoff between the United States and the Soviet Union that launched the space race. In 1957, the Soviets began what would be a series of humiliations to the U.S. space program by launching Sputnik, the first spacecraft to enter Earth orbit. In 1959, the Soviet probe Luna 2 was the first spacecraft to make a hard landing on the moon. Later that year, Luna 3 took the first photograph of the far side of the moon. And in April 1961, cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin became the first human to orbit the Earth, beating the United States and astronaut John Glenn by nearly a year. Then President Kennedy issued his famous challenge.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth.
Through the 1960s, the Soviets kept besting NASA as the space agency suffered delays and setbacks. Kennedy's 1969 deadline seemed increasingly out of reach until mid-1968.
Two things happened in the summer of 1968 that changed the whole thing completely. The first thing was the fact that we had intelligence information that the Russians were going to put a man or men circumnavigate the moon. And the second thing we found out was the fact that Grumman Aircraft, who built the lunar module, wouldn't get it ready for a 1968 flight.
The decision was made to head to the moon without the lunar landing module. Without it, the command module would have only one engine to return to Earth. If it failed, the astronauts were doomed. But in August 1968, Anders, Lovell, and Borman began a 4-month training for liftoff, a process that normally took a year and a half.
One of the remarkable things about NASA at that time, people that were there all were willing to subordinate every factor of their life, their families, their health, everything, to the success of the mission. From Jim Webb, the administrator, down to the lowest employee at NASA wanted to win, wanted to beat the Russians to the moon.
5 days before Christmas 1968, the Apollo 8 crew entered the tiny capsule on the tip of the Saturn V rocket, the most powerful machine ever built, producing the force of a small nuclear bomb.
The mighty Saturn V, the only machine powerful enough to deliver men to the moon, had only been tested twice, both times unmanned, and the second time was a near disaster, a failure after failure.
Rocketman recounts many of the tense moments of the landmark voyage, including when Frank Borman succumbed to motion sickness just as the astronauts left Earth orbit. Mission Control became very concerned and considered aborting the mission.
There's no way in God's green earth that I was going to cancel it because I puked a couple times.
Apollo 8 made 10 orbits around the moon, including one on Christmas Day when they broadcast live a biblical reading to the home planet 240,000 miles away.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth.
All three astronauts had cameras to photograph potential landing sites for future Apollo missions, but only William Anders had color film in his camera, and he took what became one of the most famous photographs of the 20th century, Earthrise over the moon. Jim Lovell and William Anders are now 90 years old. Frank Borman is 85. But their memories of the daring and historic voyage are as fresh as they were half a century ago.
I think that we were like three schoolboys looking through a candy store window.
It's no secret the Apollo 8 mission ended in triumph, but 8 months later it was overshadowed by Neil Armstrong's first steps on the moon. Even Armstrong admitted that his historic achievement would have been impossible without the risk undertaken by Apollo 8. The mission also proved a fitting ending to 1968.
We got back, and Frank got a telegram or a message saying, thank you, you saved 1968.
The astronauts were lauded with ticker tape parades in several cities, including Chicago. And the Apollo 8 astronauts ensured that the United States would forever be acknowledged as the first country to visit an out-of-this-world destination. For Chicago Tonight, I'm Eddie Aruza.
The Chicago area still has strong ties to one of the Apollo 8 crew members. James Lovell and his wife live in North Suburban Lake Forest. On our website, you can watch the entire conversation with author Robert Kurson that he had with the three astronauts at the Museum of Science and Industry and read an excerpt from his book, Rocketman. Again, that 50th anniversary is tomorrow. And that is our show for this Thursday night. Stay connected by signing up for our daily briefing and join us tomorrow night at 7 for the Week in Review. We will be off next Monday and Tuesday, but see you back here on Wednesday. Have a happy and safe holiday. We leave you now with one more from Dee Alexander. Here she is with Dan Trudell on piano singing the Christmas song. Now for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, I'm Phil Ponce, and I thank you for watching. Good night.
Chestnuts roasting on an open fire, Jack Frost nipping at your nose, Yuletide carols being sung by a choir, and folks dressed up like Eskimos. Everybody knows the turkey and the mistletoe help to make the season bright. Tiny tots with their eyes all aglow find it hard to sleep tonight. They know that Santa's on his way. He's loaded lots of toys and goodies on his sleigh, and every mother's child is on a spy to see if reindeer really know how to fly. And so I'm offering this simple phrase to kids from 1 to 92. Although it's been said many times, many ways, Merry Christmas to you.
Closed captioning for this program is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, pleased to give back to the community through numerous charitable initiatives.